unique content writing workshop. It is a starting workshop. It is a workshop that's meant for people who are looking at building for it. So welcome everyone. And I believe that my experience of is a great content creator, researcher, and she's written many books, articles, research reports. So I believe she is freelancers, or they may be people who are working in organizations, corporations. They may whatever role or hat we may be wearing today. It's equally important for us to be able to communicate and to present ourselves better. And content creating today is one of highly sought skills. So I will encourage everyone to really be interactive in today's session and tomorrow as well, so that you're able to get the best out of this workshop and to be able to improve your current skill set. And with that, I hand it over to Anupama, and I wish all of you a great learning, great workshop. And over to you, Anupama. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Saloni. All right, people. Let me ask you something. So, do all of you see the reactions? I want people to tell me how many of you already write content in your existing roles. You can put your answer in the chat. You can say I do, or you can raise your hand. Right? Minnie does. Of course, I write content too. Not yet. No, I do. Okay. What about the rest of you? I don't write. Used to.
Recording in progress.
Somebody will need to go on mute, please. Thank you. All right, and what do you understand by content? Guys, can we have some voices now? You can raise your hand and I'll give you turns to speak. What do you understand by content? I'm in the meanwhile going to share my screen. Does anybody want to share? Not share. Content is something which is used to express our thoughts. All right, that's one perspective. What else? Okay, I am going to start calling out names. This is on record. Social media mein jayega. I'll be calling out your names and asking you to speak. So better you volunteer. Content says informational, promotional, educative material, bunch of useful information. Devbrata, do you want to come on voice, switch on your mic and tell us what do you understand from content?
Yes, madam. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, actually, what I understand sometimes on any particular subject of interest, I use my thought and express it in the way it is acceptable to the bigger public, specifically the public which I am thinking in my mind. So keeping them in my mind, I try to put my thought in the form of content writing. I call it an article. Sometimes I call it an article, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Anup, do you want to take an attempt? Rajni says content has objectives, information to be shared, educate, persuade, etc. All right, Rajni will come to that. Piyush, I'm just randomly calling out names, people. I don't know who's visible. Minnie, do you want to share? What do you think? What do you understand based on content? What content is?
Ma'am, actually, I'm traveling. I'm just listening actively to you. I'm sorry. I'm not. Please pardon me.
All right.
Okay, content I think is writing about something, whether to inform, whether to express, whether to generate interest. I can't say that content is good or bad or something, but I think it's just content when you're trying to write about something, when you're trying to address something, when you're trying to inform people about something. I think that's what content is. But this is only in terms of marketing and in terms of social media posts and all that. Otherwise, content can be anything. So anything which is a written word.
Something interesting that Minnie said, content can be anything, and Minnie said, and then she classified it as anything which is written word. My question to all of you is visual content content? Are videos content? Is audio content? Do you have a take on that?
Yeah, I think that is.
All right. Mayuri, you wanted to say something. I saw you go
Yeah. So basically, I think anything that is visible to the eyes, can be read, can be heard, can be seen, is content. It can be in any form, any shape. It could be an ad, it could be a article, it could be a video, it could be infographics, anything where we put in our efforts to give something to people which makes them understand or probably relate to a subject is content.
Perfect. Now, my question to that, now my follow-up question to what Mayuri just shared and what I was asking is, if everything is content, then why do I need to learn how to write it? Okay, Avya is saying something. Avya says, I believe content is something that is distributed to the audience through a channel after proper research and a personal touch. Nice job, Avya. We will talk more about how that may be true and may not be true. But in the meanwhile, let's ask the other question, which is, why do we need to write content then? Yes, Mayuri, you wanted to share something. We can't hear you, ma'am. Okay, looks like she got disconnected. Or maybe she did not. All right, so here is my take on content, and I'm not saying this is the perfect take. Anything that we discuss in this session, please remember that this is not the final word. This is not the end message. आपको ये ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा कि ये एक perspective है, and which is why interactive workshops will make more sense, because then we'll have multiple perspectives. So the first thing is content is presentable in any form. It can be a piece of video, it can be a podcast, it can be a written article or a story. It could also be just a graphic, a comic strip, and it can have multiple purposes. It could be used to just express my thoughts. I could just use content to tell you how I feel, what my opinion is, which is what a lot of us do on social media, which is what we may do with our friends on email, on Facebook, on Twitter. There'll also be the kind of writing which is called as informative writing. Informative writing, the objective is to educate or explain something. 10 ways to take care of your health, 5 ways to lose weight. How should you invest in mutual funds? Ek example. Yeah, how to get your bank card blocked. All of this is informational content. All of this is informative writing. This could be essays, articles, research papers, presentations. This could be a company document. It could be a report. But the idea is to inform. And then there is the persuasive writing. The objective of the persuasive writing is to get the reader or the consumer of the content to do something. It could be to buy my services. It could be to convince them to my point of view. It's not just information any longer, but I'm trying to actually convince them to do something. Whether it's to agree with my logic, with my argument, or whether it is to buy or sell or give me something that I want. That is the objective. And Avya, your response when you said it is shared with the larger community, it has to be well researched. All of that has to happen, but the objective is whether you want to use it to persuade or whether you want it to inform people. And then there is, of course, entertainment, movies, cinema, books, novels, fiction, poetry, or you could also call it literature for that matter, literary work. And literary work's objective is to, it's basically creative writing. It could be fictional, could be non-fictional, but that is what content is. Content is a piece of message, is a message that you're sending. In other words, content is your method to communicate with people. And why is it a necessary skill? Because none of us is in isolation. All of us need to communicate all the time. Structured होता है तो content कहलाता है, non-structured होता है तो गपशप कहलाती है. That's the bottom line. Now, Anand has raised his hand. Let's hear what Anand has to say. Anand, do you want to say something or do you want to ask something?
Yeah, hi, Anupam. Sorry for my late response because you asked about the earlier you asked about what we feel about. And actually, my way of thinking is just simplifying the thing, whatever it is. And to me, content is a part of a larger perspective, which is a basic differentiator between human and animal. Human is human because they can communicate with other human in an effective way. And for communication, there are three ways, basically, primarily. One is speaking, one is seeing, and the third one is writing. So for speaking, we have voice. For seeing, we have videos or the play or the act or something like that. And for video or for the visuals, we have gestures. So the importance of gestures there for the video presentation and communicating through the video, right? And the tone of the voice is equally essential for a better speak in between the two individuals in a community. So similarly, my take for communication is content is like tone, like gesture in voice and video in text.
So I will disagree a little here, Anand.
Yeah,
I know that you're trying to sort of highlight the importance of content. That's what I gathered. But my
Yes.
difference of opinion here is this. What you've described is communication. What I am talking about is content. Let me put it in this way. Let me give you an example. So say, suppose I was eating a rasagulla. What you're talking about is how it tastes. What I am talking about is what is it made of. So the difference between communication and content is communication is all of that, the tone, the pitch, the pace, the visual, the graphic, the sound that will be going with it. But content is the concept and how you're going to present the concept, how is it going to be, and not just in the terms of written word. So for instance, if I were to do a video about educating people into, say, financial literacy, and I just had text, would you say that there can't be videos because writing nahi hua video mein? Would you say that there can't be podcasts because actually writing nahi hua? So what I'm talking of, what goes behind the scene. So the podcast script has to be written by someone. The video has to be written by someone. The script has to be written by someone. And that's where content will step in. So it's not the masala, it's the substance behind it. Shakkar is the add-on. Chini is the add-on. But the fundamental thing, the gulab jamun, the mawa or the khoya that you've made it with, and the ghee that you fried it in, all of that is your content. So that's
you
sorry.
made my thought very clear, which I was wanting to express, because that was the base. And what I was trying to tell you is the same thing what you are telling is if we are communicating, whether it is a marketplace with a customer and a client, whatever the environment, business scenario, whatever it is, whatever the medium it is to be structured. It is the content or the actually the content, you can say, is a backbone of any communication. As you said that if it is not content properly written, it is a gupsha. So
yeah, so if structured, it's content. If not structured, then it's conversation.
Yes.
And it's the pizza base. The toppings come later.
Very true. Very true.
All right, good job, guys. So यहाँ तक हमको समझ में आ रहा है, हमको इतना समझ में आ रहा है कि कंटेंट क्या होता है और लोग कंटेंट क्यों लिखते हैं. 4 रीजंस हैं, परसुएट करना चाहते हैं, इन्फॉर्म करना चाहते हैं, एक्सप्रेस करना चाहते हैं, या फिर मजे के लिए लिखते हैं। इट्स एंजॉयमेंट, इट्स एंटरटेनमेंट, इट्स लिटरेरी अगर रिटन है तो, और अगर विजुअल है तो इट्स सो प्लेजर। नाउ माय क्वेश्चन टू यू गाइस इज, व्हाई डू यू वांट टू राइट कंटेंट? I want some different voices this time. Vinod, why do you want to learn content? Rajni, Pooja, there's somebody called SS. People, why do you want to write content? लोग इन 4 कारण से लिखते हैं, आपको क्यों लिखना है वो बताइए। Prema ma'am says to make some unique informative things. Okay, so Prema ma'am wants to write content because he wants to inform people. Great job. Mukesh ji, why do you want to write? हाँ Pooja, go on.
मैम मैं पहले सीखना चाहती हूँ और फिर सीख के उससे अर्निंग करना चाहती हूँ, इसलिए मैंने ये ज्वाइन करा है। और मुझे पता नहीं है कि ये सब क्या होता है, तो मैं आपको ज्यादा इसके बारे में बता नहीं सकती।
No problems.
Thank you.
Perfectly all right. I'm actually glad कि आप सीखना चाहती हैं और आप ये भी डिस्कवर करना चाहती हैं कि क्यों लिखा जाएगा और पैसे कैसे कमाए जाएंगे। Get that? Perfect. Devabrata says, and Pooja, we will go through all of that. We'll talk about that. Devabrata says to express my thought based on my experiences and share with people for their benefit. So Devabrata, would it be appropriate if I said you want to express A and you want to inform B? Inform. All right. So information के लिए, does your experience and your thought matter a lot, or can research substitute for your experience and thought? That's my next question to you, Devbrata. Rajni says to convey my feelings and my message. All right. Expression. Research on your thought. Okay. Here is where I will come to all of you and I will ask you something else now. So, what should be the source of your content? Should it be your thought? Should it be, think again, ना हमने purpose discuss किया है content का, कि purpose क्या होता है content का? Content का purpose होता है या तो inform करना, या तो express करना, या तो persuade करना, या तो literary work. अब मेरा सवाल ये है आपसे कि इन 4 purposes को ध्यान में रखते हुए आपके content का source क्या होना चाहिए? Anybody? Where should your content originate from? Thought, experience, right? Research on similar thought, own thoughts, past experiences, media. Okay. What else? Subject and context. Okay. What else? मैं screen share कर रही हूँ guys. Can you see the screen, everybody? Do you see the screen? Can someone?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So the question is, we've already talked about this. Why should you write content? You should write content for these 4 purposes. One is to inform, one is to express, one is to persuade, and the other is to entertain or for pleasure. Now what we are saying is, what should you write? Where should your source be? Somebody is saying it should be own thoughts and expressions. You know, I'm going to say something very controversial here. किसी को 1 पैसे का फर्क नहीं पड़ता, आप क्या सोचते हैं? और किसी को 1 पैसे का फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि आपके जीवन के, आपके एक्सपीरियंसेस क्या हैं। तब तक, जब तक कि उससे कोई वैल्यू ऐड नहीं होती उसकी लाइफ में। मैं बहुत बड़ी कंटेंट राइटर होंगी, चैंप होंगी, जो भी होंगी, मैंने किताबें लिखी, आपको क्या फर्क पड़ता है इफ आई एम नॉट आउट देयर टू टीच यू? इफ यू कांट बेनिफिट फ्रॉम माय लर्निंग, डज इट रियली मैटर मुझे क्या आता है? Yes or a no? I just want a yes or a no. Does it matter कि मैं कितनी बढ़िया content writer हूँ अगर मैं आपको सिखा नहीं सकती कुछ? So the first thing that you need to remember as people who want to write, or as people who want to make money, or as people who want to make a career in content writing, career job, जो भी, wherever, whatever stage you are at, please remember कि सिर्फ expression वाला जो content है ना, वो self satisfying है, वो स्वांतः सुखाए है, आपने अपने मजे के लिए लिखा, किसी ने पढ़ा तो पढ़ा, नहीं पढ़ा तो नहीं पढ़ा. अगर वो वैसा कंटेंट है जैसे किसी ने पढ़ा या नहीं पढ़ा कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, तो उससे पैसा बनाना थोड़ा मुश्किल है, क्योंकि हम सबके पास वो प्रिविलेज नहीं है कि हम एक नॉवल लिख के छोड़ देंगे और एक दिन वो बेस्ट सेलर, और उसमें भी बेस्ट सेलर की उम्मीद हमें रहेगी. सो दिस हैज टू एड वैल्यू to the consumer. I'm calling them a consumer of the content because they will either read or watch your video or listen to your podcast. It has to add value. Now, if it has to add value, can this be just, and we've already established this can't be just your own thought and expression. So where should this come from? That is where the concept of ikigai is sometimes vaguely using that concept comes into picture. You have to figure out what are you good at? What does the other person need? Will it sell? It doesn't have to make you millions, but it has to sell enough कि ठीक है आपको 30, 40, 50, 70,000 जो भी चाहिए महीने का वो मिल जाए, एक स्टेबल इनकम क्रिएट हो जाए. Is it needed? We've already spoken. Are you good at it? And can you do it? Do you want to do it? So for instance, some of you may not have written content in the past, and this is a common question that happens. हमने पहले कभी नहीं लिखा, हम कहाँ शुरू करें? And that's a part of the how. How should you do it? शुरू करो, start. No matter where. Mistakes है, it's all right. Grammar है, figure out कर लेंगे. Vocabulary है, we'll fix it. नहीं पता है कौन सा वर्ड यूज करना है, कोई बात नहीं. एक लाइन लिखनी थी, 4 लाइन लिख लिए, 4 लाइन लिख लिए तो छोटा कर लेंगे. 4 लाइन पैराग्राफ लिखना था, 2 ही लाइन आई, कोई बात नहीं, हम एक्सपैंड कर लेंगे, पर लिखना शुरू तो करो. So the first step is always going to be start. Now here is where I'll pause. I'll take your questions for a little while. Where do you struggle? When I asked you to start, the other day I put an exercise in the group. I said, tell me about yourselves. Write 2 paragraphs about yourselves. And a lot of you struggled. And my question is, what was the challenge that you faced? Let us talk about some of those challenges so that we can address them. Who wants to go with their challenge? It'll be nice if you can actually switch on your mic and tell me. No, so Prema Ramji, we will only speak from our experiences. You've been in some of my other classes. आपको ये पता है कि हम जनरल बातें करते नहीं हैं, हम बहुत स्पेसिफिक बातें करते हैं यहाँ पे. तो आप मुझे ये बताएंगे कि आपका व्यक्तिगत स्ट्रगल क्या था. Okay, Piyush says I cannot give structure to my knowledge or thoughts. Perfect, Piyush. We will figure out how to give structure. बात करते हैं structure की. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would like to share. I started writing this short story book a few years ago, and I think you know about it. I must have mentioned it. It's supposed to have at least 8 stories. I haven't been able to go past 2 stories. And even for those 2 stories, I feel they're not good enough, or they're not impressive enough, or the language is not great enough. Whereas the story is good, but I still feel that it's not good enough. So I think that is what is stopping me from moving to the 3rd one, and so on.
All right. Anand, what do you want to share? And you'll have to unmute yourself. I think you're speaking, but you're on mute.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So I'm Achal. I struggle. I think it's demotivation. I feel like nobody would want to read my content. I mostly write about animals, and with a lot of hate being spread about animals, I feel like this it's just waste whatever I'm writing about them.
All right. And okay, we'll talk about this too. There's somebody who's raised their hand. Anandji, do you want to speak? Thank you, Achal, for sharing. Avya, do you want to share something? Where do you struggle?
I think it's just the confidence that we all lack.
Okay. What about you personally? Find it easy to start? Do you find it difficult to start?
The starting and ending is the biggest problem, I think, because if it's not attractive enough, the people would not want to read it
All right.
like ahead.
We shall talk about that. Somebody's put something in the chat. Sanjay says, if content to be big write-ups or can be one page too. Sanjay, it can be anything. We'll talk about the what also. So, all right. So another thing that some people shared in the group was how to ideate. मेरे दिमाग में ideas नहीं आते. So, ये कुछ common challenges हैं जो लोगों को face होते हैं. Let's take them one by one. So, the first thing is मेरे दिमाग में ideas नहीं आते. This is the first step. Because ये वो जगह है जहां मुझे ये आइडेंटिफाई करना है कि मैं कैसे लिखूं और मैं क्या लिखूं. So say I have a topic. Minnie, this might slightly answer some of your questions too, but I'll take up your question in detail again. But let us say मेरे दिमाग में एक idea है. I have a topic. Now what? Where do I go next? So I prepare an outline. That's the first step. Without an outline, there is going to be no writing. There is going to be no structure. Like I said, अगर structure नहीं है तो गपशप है, communication हो सकता है, conversation हो सकता है, वो content नहीं कहलाएगा, वो content का piece नहीं है. So सबसे पहला काम जो आप कर सकते हैं ना, आप एक outline create कर सकते हैं. अब आप मुझे बोलेंगे outline में मैं क्या क्या करूं, मैं 2 frameworks आपको दूंगी. ये common frameworks हैं, बहुत नया out of the world कुछ नहीं है, लेकिन ये useful frameworks हैं, ये मेरे लिए आज भी काम करते हैं 15 साल बाद भी. So the first framework is the WH framework. ये हम सबने पढ़ा होता है, मैनेजमेंट में पढ़ा होता है, हम जब कुछ कम्युनिकेशन वर्कशॉप करने जा रहे होते हैं तब भी पढ़ा होता है, इंटरव्यू की प्रिपरेशन में भी पढ़ा होता है, सबने पढ़ाया होता है. Why do you need to know about this? So for instance, if you remember my initial communication with all of you, the first message that I had floated out saying मैं ये वर्कशॉप कर रही हूँ, मेरा मन है, क्यों आओगे आप वर्कशॉप में? So I end up telling you the WH framework, which is the what, why, who, how, when, etc. Whatever questions that you can think of. My message to all of you was this. Hi everyone, I'm organizing a workshop. What am I doing? Organizing a workshop. On dates. When am I doing it? ये date, ये time. किसके लिए? इन लोगों के लिए. और उसमें मैं क्या करूंगी? उसमें मैं ये 10 चीजें पढ़ाऊंगी, ये मेरा एजेंडा है. So this is all happening around why, where, whom, what. कहाँ करूंगी? Online करूंगी. And what is your takeaway from it? What is the benefit? What is the agenda? ये चीजें हैं जो आप सीखोगे. It's a very, very simple structure. There is absolutely no ambiguity. And it works. It works because it is simple to understand for your reader as well. It is simple to understand for the person that you're communicating to. आप जिसको भेज रहे हो ये piece of content, उसको ये समझ में आ रहा है कि मेरे साथ अगले 2 दिन ये होने वाला है अगर मैं इस वर्कशॉप में गया या गई तो. So that's the first framework. मैं इस framework की डिटेल में जा सकती हूँ अगर आप में से किसी के कोई questions हैं तो, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Does any of you have any questions? Okay. इसमें बस जो इकलौती एडिशनल चीज है ना वो ये है कि कस्टमर की वैल्यू क्या है. तो आपको ये बताना पड़ेगा कि भाई साहब आप क्यों सीखूं मुझसे. तो मैंने कहा जो लोग बेसिक लेवल पे हैं वो इसलिए सीखें कि दे विल बी एबल टू मेक देयर पोर्टफोलियोज, दे विल बी एबल टू मार्केट देमसेल्व्स. जो लोग मैनेजर्स हैं वो क्यों सीखें? वो इसलिए सीखें ताकि उन्हें जब किसी से काम करवाना हो, उन्हें जब किसी से कंटेंट लिखवाना हो तो उन्हें ये पता रहे कि उनकी एक्सपेक्टेशंस क्या हैं. A lot of times what happens as a content writer, and you'll experience this when you start writing, or you might already be experiencing this. Client की expectations कुछ और होती है, आप कुछ और दे रहे होते हैं, and there's a significant mismatch and multiple iterations keep happening. Why is that? Because आपको अपना स्किल पता है, आपको उनका प्रोडक्ट उतने अच्छे से नहीं पता, उनको अपना प्रोडक्ट पता है, उनके दिमाग में एक वेग आइडिया, but they don't understand how the process works. They've never done content, so they don't understand it. So it's actually a good idea for managers and for clients and for people to know कि हमको करवाना क्या है किसी content writer से. So that's framework number 1. The other framework is what I call as the intersectional framework. Intersectionality is a concept. It's not really a writing concept per se. It's a sociological concept. Lekin intersectional framework will help a lot as well. This is slightly advanced. MBA की workshops जब कर रहे होते हैं ना personality development और group discussion की, तो मान लो मैंने आप now this time I am giving you a topic. I am saying, say suppose you run a business of a small home business of making cakes, and I tell you मुझे अलग अलग एंगल से सोच के बताओ कि तुम्हारे बिजनेस में मेरे लिए क्या वैल्यू है एज अ कस्टमर, व्हाई शुड आई कम टू यू. पर ये सिर्फ एक एंगल से नहीं सोचो, मल्टीपल एंगल से सोचो. Can somebody suggest a few? Adhikshita, do you want to add something to this? Can you suggest क्या एंगल से सोच सकते हैं केक मेकिंग के बारे में?
पार्टीज पे आपको टेंशन नहीं लेनी पड़ेगी.
Okay, that's one. So I'm talking about cake making right now, which means I am doing the job, I am delivering it. Your stress levels are what else? Who can give me interesting angles to cake making? Look of the cake. Okay, ठीक है, वो product हो गया. So मेरे product specifications क्या हो सकते हैं? मेरा look, feel, all of that. What else? Sorry.
Emotional appeal. When people eat the cake in your parties, they will leave happy.
Okay. What else? Guys, can I make cakes for diabetics? Can I make customized cakes for diabetics? Yes, no, maybe. Can I make eggless cakes?
Yeah, eggless, sugar-free.
Okay. What else? Can I make gluten-free cakes? So I, for instance, personally, I'm gluten intolerant. And I have friends who will go and look for bajwe ka cookies for me because they know कि मैं अगर wheat cookies खाऊंगी तो I'll be in trouble. And they actually look for bakers and cake makers who will actually supply. Now here are the two things. One, somebody may not be baking diabetic cakes. कुछ लोग हैं जो एक बहुत specific niche domain में काम कर रहे हैं, वो wedding cakes ही बनाते हैं. What if your client is like that? Suppose they can't customize. So फिर क्या करेंगे? फिर क्या क्या messaging हो सकती है? So now I'm going to intensify your problem. अभी हमने क्या किया? हमने कुछ एंगल्स देखे, हमने बोला अच्छा जी आपका इमोशनल अपील क्या है, आपका प्रोडक्ट कैसा है, उस प्रोडक्ट को कस्टमाइज कैसे कर सकते हैं. ये 3 सेक्शंस, ये 3 एरियाज हैं जो ओवरलैप करते हैं जनरली केक मेकिंग में. अगर मैं इसको स्पेसिफाई कर दूं और तब बोलूं कि आइडिएट करूं, यानी कि अब आपका क्लाइंट सिर्फ वेडिंग केक्स बनाता है. अब आप मुझे बताओ आप कैसे बेच सकते हो वेडिंग केक्स? क्या क्या एंगल्स देख सकते हैं? मयूरी, मिनी, मुकेश जी, पूजा, रजनी, ideas, thoughts?
Customized cakes with the pictures of the bride and the groom or something specific like that.
Okay, what else? Customized to venue, cake with photos. All right.
Yeah, shapes, anything.
So now let me ask you something else. क्या मैं केक के इंग्रेडिएंट्स की बात कर सकती हूँ? एक. दूसरा, मैं उसके इमोशनल कस्टमाइजेशन की बात कर सकती हूँ. 2. तीसरा, मैं आपके ease or comfort in terms of placing your order, executing your order and delivering it and ensuring that it is, you know, ले जाते केक give ना पड़े, all of that. I can talk about that. Can I talk about emotional nostalgia? मेरी मम्मी की शादी में केक नहीं आया था. मेरी मम्मी केक का कोई कॉन्सेप्ट ही नहीं होता था. शादी होती थी, केक नहीं होता था. Especially in the community that I am, वहाँ पे केक्स नहीं होते वेडिंग में. Can we talk about nostalgia and stories? Why is a cake important? Yeah. Why is a cake pleasant? Yes, no, maybe. Let me give you another example. अब एक दूसरा एग्जाम्पल देखते हैं, इससे थोड़ा डिफरेंट. प्लास्टिक एडिटिव मैन्युफैक्चरर्स होते हैं. प्लास्टिक एडिटिव्स पता है क्या होते हैं? Plastic additives are compounds that are added to the plastic for color and strength and all of that. उसको plastic additives बोलते हैं. मेरा client is a plastic additive manufacturer. मेरे को किस point of view से इसके business के बारे में सोचना चाहिए? एक तो यही कि इसके additives करते क्या हैं. दूसरा ये कि ये affordable है कि नहीं. तीसरा ये कि ये कौन से segment को cater करते हैं. चौथा ये कि इनका environmental impact क्या है. जनता तो हाई प्लास्टिक मचा देगी. आप करके देखो प्लास्टिक की मार्केटिंग, लेकिन बिक रहा है उसके बाद दुनिया भर में प्लास्टिक. सो कैन वी create a messaging that will talk of their responsibility that they exercise while they have factories going on? What else can be an angle? Quality. Good job. What else? Post-sale service. So if you really look at things, what am I talking about? I'm still talking about the WH. I'm talking more of the what and the how. But I'm talking of it in different contexts. What are those contexts? हर topic का ना, हर subject का, हर domain का. कोई political impact होगा, कोई personal impact होगा, कोई sociological impact होगा. मुझे feminism पे लिखना है. It's a political thing for me. It's a personal experience as a woman for me. It has a sociological impact because when I step out to meet people and to date people, there is a certain way they behave with me. Okay, Nitesh, what importance do plastics hold in our life? Can you live today without plastic? So, उसकी importance क्या है आपकी life में? उसकी significance क्या है? There'll be an economic. मैं बहुत ज्ञान दे लूंगी प्लास्टिक का सामान मत खरीदो, लेकिन जो आदमी नई स्टील की थाली अफोर्ड कर सकता वो क्या करेगा? मैं बहुत बोलूंगी बायोडिग्रेडेबल होनी चाहिए, पत्तल होनी चाहिए, लेकिन पत्तल 5 रुपए की आती है अगर, और प्लास्टिक का डिस्पोजेबल अगर 3 रुपए का आता है, तो व्हाट डू यू थिंक पीपल आर गोइंग टू चूज? योर पॉलिटिकल एंड योर पर्सनल एंड योर इकोलॉजिकल में be whatever the story is, लेकिन what will matter to them will matter to them. So there'll be an economic angle to things. What else will be there? और कौन से aspects हो सकते हैं? अब इस जगह से सोच के देखो, ये जो 5 keywords हैं यहाँ से सोच के देखो, what else can be applicable? There can be community pressure. मैं बोलूंगी यार दहेज मत लो, लोग बोलेंगे जी अगर हमने अपनी लड़की की शादी अच्छे से नहीं की ना तो हमें तो जात बाहर कर देंगे. तो कर लो आप इकोनॉमिक्स की बात. So it depends on what you're writing about. And it is your job as the content person to think कि इसको कौन से अलग-अलग एंगल से देखा जा सकता है. ये जो बात है ना, ये क्रक्स है of the previous framework. इंटरसेक्शनल फ्रेमवर्क का क्रक्स क्या है कि आप उसे 1000 तरीकों से देखेंगे और आपका जो प्रोडक्ट है या आपकी जो सर्विस है या आपका जो टॉपिक है या जो मुद्दा है वो उस सबके इंटरसेक्शन पे रहेगा. वेन डायग्राम्स याद है, देयर यूज्ड टू बी मल्टीपल सर्कल्स और सर्कल्स के बीच में एक छोटा सा हिस्सा होता था जो ओवरलैप कर रहा होता था. दैट इंटरसेक्शन इज योर प्रोडक्ट और योर सर्विस. सो व्हेन आई आस्क यू टेल मी अबाउट योरसेल्फ, you are in that intersection and you talk about who am I as a professional, who am I as a person, who am I as a woman, who am I as a friend. There is so much to talk about. there is enough and then there is more. तो आइडिएट करने के जो स्टेप्स है ना, और फिर इसमें आप अब इन दोनों ये जो दो फ्रेमवर्क्स हैं, WH फ्रेमवर्क एंड द इंटरसेक्शनल फ्रेमवर्क, यू कैन एक्चुअली ओवरलैप देम. यू कैन से, मैं बात करूंगी, सपोज आई हैव टू टॉक अबाउट केक बेकिंग एंड आई से यार पता है क्या ना, ये केक बेकिंग इज अ न्यू फैड. सपोज आई वाज राइटिंग अगेंस्ट केक बेकिंग, आई वुड से इट्स अ न्यू फैड. आजकल के बच्चे, इनको पता नहीं क्या फैंसी केक्स, हमारे टाइम में तो कुछ नहीं होता था. What am I actually talking about? I am talking about sociological community structure. I'm in nostalgia. तो अब मेरे को अगर ये प्रूव करना है, cakes, wedding cakes are a fad, suppose. By the way, guys, please, I love cakes, huh? So, for the record, I love cakes. Wedding cakes are a fad. अगर मुझे ये कहना है, तो मैं बोलूंगी, okay, इसका इकोनॉमिक एंगल क्या है? It's a waste of money. As it is, आप 50 डेजर्ट्स लाए. इसका सोशोलॉजिकल एंगल क्या है कि भैया ना, ये नई नई रीत, every new thing that happens around the world, it's, what do we call it? Materialism at its best. इसका एक और इकोनॉमिक एंगल क्या है? अब इसका काउंटर आर्ग्यूमेंट क्या हो सकता है? इसका काउंटर आर्ग्यूमेंट हो सकता है, आप दूसरा डेजर्ट मत लाइए ना, आप मत लाइए रसगुल्ला, आप रखिए सिर्फ केक. It's economical now. It gives people a living, a livelihood. आप इसको मटेरियलिज्म कह रहे हैं, मैं इसको चॉइस बोल रही हूँ. जैसे ही मैंने चॉइस बोला, ये चॉइस अब सिर्फ सोशल एंगल नहीं रह गया, पर्सनल नहीं रह गया, ये पर्सनल इज पॉलिटिकल हो गया. So if I had to argue, if my question was, are wedding cakes a fad? There are two arguments, three arguments you have for, and there were 2 or 3 arguments now you have against. Now you have a structure, now you have an idea, you don't just have a thought. Now you don't have, oh, you will send me one for this workshop. Thank you, Nitesh, that would be sweet. So Nitesh is sending me a cake, guys. No, okay, please, this workshop is complimentary, so no cakes happening. We'll all meet someday, hopefully. So come back, the point is, this is the intersectional, and now within this intersectional, I will say, if I'm saying it's a waste of money, let's first define what is wastage of money. Let's first define who is it a waste for. जिस आदमी ने अपनी शादी में 1 करोड़ रुपया खर्च किया, उसके लिए केक वेस्टेज ऑफ मनी नहीं है. लेकिन जिसकी शादी 3 लाख में होने वाली है, उसके लिए 30,000 का वेडिंग केक फॉर 300 गेस्ट्स इज मे बी अ वेस्ट ऑफ मनी. ही डजंट वांट दैट. मेरे को पता नहीं केक्स की क्या रेंज है, मैं मान के चल रही हूँ 30, 40, 50,000 का तो केक होगा अगर 300 लोगों का केक है तो, और क्योंकि वेडिंग केक है तो ओवर प्राइस्ड होगा. सो हु इज इट अ वेस्ट फॉर मनी? तो मैंने क्या किया, मैंने इंटरसेक्शनल में से एक पॉइंट उठाया और फिर मैंने बोला वेस्टेज ऑफ मनी का मतलब क्या है, उसका कॉन्टेक्स्ट क्या है, हु इज इट फॉर, व्हेन इज इट अ वेस्टेज ऑफ मनी. लोग ये भी आर्ग्यूमेंट दे सकते कि यार शादी तो जीवन में एक ही बार होती है, कर लो स्प्लर्ज. तुम्हें कौन सा हर 30वें दिन शादी करनी है, हर 30वें साल भी कौन सी शादी करनी, लेट्स स्प्लर्ज. एंड देयर कुड आल्सो बी अदर पीपल हु कुड से भैया बचत भी एक ही बार होती है जीवन में, खर्चा कर दिया तो कर ही दिया फिर. सो आई ब्रिंग इन द व्हाट, व्हाई, हु विद इन द इंटरसेक्शन, एंड देन माय आइडिया गेट्स मोर एलैबोरेट, देन माय थॉट गेट्स मोर एलैबोरेट, एंड देन my I have a topic becomes I have an outline. And once I have an outline, it is easy for me to write. So all those people who were saying, I don't know where to start, does it help you now? Are you feeling like you might be able to start after knowing, understanding this? Yes, no, maybe. People, please tell me, keep responding so that I don't feel कि मैंने सबको सुला दिया. Okay, everybody's sleeping. Good morning. Does this help? Pooja says this helps. What about the other people? Are we starting wali baat? The thing that you were talking about, where do I start and where do I end? This is where you start. Now let's address the second challenge. The second challenge you said, so I can't structure, Piyush, now you'll be able to structure. How to ideate? Now you'll be able to ideate. Now let us talk about structure में एक चीज और आती है which is the flow, कि sequence क्या होना चाहिए. तो सुनिए, ये मान के चलिए कि आपका जो रीडर है ना, उसको नहीं पता है फ्लो क्या होना चाहिए. आप डिटरमिन करते हैं उसके लिए कि फ्लो क्या होना चाहिए. यू आर द वन सेटिंग a benchmark for your consumer of the content. So it depends on the domain that you work in. For instance, if you are someone who writes non-fiction, let's continue the cake analogy. ऐसे नहीं केक बेक होता कि उठाया मैदा, चीनी, एग्स, दूध सब ब्लेंड कर दिया और बेक कर दिया. हाँ, हो सकता है कपकेक बना सकते हैं वैसे घर में, बट प्रोफेशनल केक बेकिंग वैसे नहीं होगी. देयर विल बी अ प्रोसेस, there'll be steps, there'll be a sequence. So for anybody who does non-fiction writing, especially where it's descriptive, for instance finance वाले guidelines होंगी, for instance health वाले लोग, आप ऑर्गन की बात करोगे, आप उसके बाद डिजीज की बात करोगे, फिर उसके बाद आप उस डिजीज के सिम्टम्स की बात करोगे, then you'll talk about the doctors that you should consult, the treatment that you should have, and any recommendations that you're making or any precautions that you need to take. So that logical flow, so the flow is determined by the logic that you want to follow. And this is not a content skill. Logic is not a content skill. Logic is a cognitive skill. It's a thinking skill. How do you think? So a lot of content writing, a lot of writing in general, fictional or non-fictional, is driven by how is your cognitive framework. आप सोचते कैसे हो. तो अगर आप लॉजिकली सोचना एक दिन में नहीं शुरू होता है. कुछ लोग हैं जो लॉजिकली सोचते आ रहे हैं, कुछ लोग हैं जिन्होंने अब तक नहीं जरूरत पड़ी है इस तरह से सोचने की. तो you have to again, like I said, start somewhere, keep doing it. Only when you keep doing it, you get good at it. और ये जो सीक्वेंस है, इस सीक्वेंस के कुछ इंडिकेटर्स होंगे. यहां हम फिर से लैंग्वेज में आ जाएंगे. तो फर्स्टली, सेकेंडली, नेक्स्ट, फाइनली, subsequently, parallelly. So those connectors, those indicators, those determiners, that language, that grammar, the adverbs, the adjectives will become important. But only after once you have the लॉजिक ऑफ द फ्लो. तो ये लॉजिक ऑफ फ्लो कैसे डिटरमिन होगा? कभी कभी आपको क्लाइंट से गाइडलाइंस मिलेंगी, कभी कभी क्लाइंट से गाइडलाइंस नहीं मिलेंगी, कभी कभी आपको क्लाइंट बताएगा कि मुझे ना 10 चीजें चाहिए, ये 10 चीजें सीक्वेंस में चाहिए. कभी कभी क्लाइंट आपके साथ ब्रेनस्टॉर्म करेगा, वो आपसे पूछेगा मुझे ऐसा लगता है ये 5 होनी चाहिए, लेकिन तुम्हारे हिसाब से क्या होना चाहिए. एंड दैट्स व्हेन यू हैव टू stop thinking as a content writer and start thinking as a content strategist. You have to strategize कि मैं, and strategy के लिए जो सबसे पहला सवाल आपको फिर से पूछना होगा, मुझे लिखना क्यों है और मुझे किसके लिए लिखना है. अगर मुझे इन्फॉर्म करना है, से सपोज मुझे सेक्सुअल अवेयरनेस पे लिखना है and I want to talk to children about it, then my flow has to be simple. But if I have to talk to adults about it, then my flow is going to be different. Then the depth of the amount of content that I will capture, the amount of information that I will capture will be different, and hence my content flow will look different. My guidelines will be different depending on the kind of language I want to use with kids versus with adults. So again, start is the first thing. Ideate/outline is the next thing. But उससे भी पहले identify who will consume your content and identify why they will consume it. उसको information चाहिए या वो कोई product purchase करने आया है, उसको आपकी किताब खरीदनी है या उसको सिर्फ ये जानना है कि आपकी किताब में क्या है, या उसने अभी मन नहीं बनाया है, वो मन तब बनाएगा कि मैं कौन सा फ्रिज खरीदूं जब वो 5 तरह के फ्रिज के बारे में पढ़ेगा. So now I'm going to give you an exercise. Everybody pull out your notepads and pen if you can, if you're not in commute or whatever is happening with you guys. The exercise is this. I will put the recording on hold. I will actually go on mute and all of us will take 5 minutes. Now that you have these two frameworks, the WH framework and the intersectional framework, I want you to write about a business that either you run or work with, or a business that you know. You may have a friend, you may have somebody in the family who runs a business, but some business, it has to be a business idea. I want you to give me 200 words, not in text, but in outline. And I want a detailed outline. And I will ask you to present your outlines. You can do it on a soft copy, you can write it on a paper. I'm okay either way. I'm putting the recording on pause and I am going on mute. You will all take 5 minutes. 10:52 हुआ है, 10:57 पे 58 पे we'll reconvene.
I would say not political, but environmental. If I could give, I would say instead of, yeah, we would not wrap our flowers in plastic.
Brilliant.
That, and instead of gifting, things of plastic and just materialistic values, maybe give someone a flower. They would feel close to nature, and it smells good, so it'll be with them for a very long time.
How about people that are allergic to flowers, Aanchal, but they may still want flowers?
I don't think they'll be allergic to all the flowers. I think the allergy may be because of the pollens.
Usually.
Yeah, so
or because
I
of
would,
strong fragrances sometimes.
yeah, maybe. So yeah, because we'll always say we have a consultant, so we can work that out with the customers.
Perfect. So guys, one of the things that if you notice was this. मैंने आंचल को पूछा, अच्छा ये situation हुआ, thanks आंचल, तो क्या होगा, वो हो जाएगा, तो क्या होगा? You as a content person don't get to decide the product. Client वो बेचेगा जो वो बेचेगा, और client वैसे बेचेगा जैसे बेचेगा. You may brainstorm if you have that kind of comfort with your client. You may actually end up saying कि मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये process streamline किया जा सकता है. But your client might come back and say, भाई साहब आपका काम content करना है, content पे focus करो. And then you have to figure out a creative method or a way without lying if you are ethical. Lying, if that's what you want to do, those are like moral, वो जो virtue signaling है वो मेरे को नहीं करनी है. It is a call that you have to take. You would know how desperate you are for work at that moment. You would know what kind of client is it. But my general recommendation would be that authenticity goes a long way in messaging also. People can sense when you're fooling them. So your job is to not fool them and yet present something in a manner that appeals to them. Now, one of you, can someone tell me what was wrong about my brief? Now here's the interesting bit. तो मैंने जो brief दी थी उसके साथ क्या गड़बड़ थी? Can someone actually tell me? Maybe brief थी क्या? What was the brief that I gave? Anyone? Rajni? अच्छा पूजा, you were saying मैम मैंने पहले कभी नहीं किया, मेरे को I want to learn all of this. इस बार ये आपने कुछ लिखा क्या? आप कुछ लिख पाए? Could you write the outline?
यस मैम, मैंने ट्राई करा है. मैंने कैंडल बिजनेस के लिए ट्राई करा है कि अगर मैं ऑनलाइन उसको कोई मेरे से कांटेक्ट करता है कि हमें एक कैंडल बिजनेस है जो इंस्टाग्राम पे हमें सेल करनी है, तो हमें कैसे करना होगा. तो मैंने इस तरह से सोचा है कि कोई हमारी कैंडल्स क्यों लेगा. ठीक है, सो हम मार्केट में काफी सारी वैक्सेस हैं, पैराफिन है जो बहुत ही हार्मफुल होती है, लेकिन हम अच्छी क्वालिटी की वैक्स यूज करेंगे. ठीक है, और आजकल इंडिया में भी ये बिजनेस काफी अलग तरह से, मतलब हम हर फेस्टिवल पे कैंडल्स यूज कर सकते हैं, चाहे वो बच्चे की सेरेमनीज हो या वैलेंटाइंस हो या कुछ भी हो. तो मैंने कुछ इतना ही सोचा है, इससे ज्यादा मैंने सोचा नहीं है.
But is this better than how you were doing before?
मैम मैंने कभी करा ही नहीं है, मैं
हाँ
फर्स्ट
हाँ,
टाइम
तो पहले कभी किया ही नहीं ना, फर्स्ट टाइम किया है, अभी कैसे लग रहा है करके?
अच्छा लग रहा है
ये लग रहा है
पर
कि
अभी
मैं
मैं
इसको अगर करती रहूंगी रेगुलरली तो मैं और कर पाऊंगी, या ये लग रहा है कि यार ये क्या कर रहा है?
अभी मुझे अच्छा नहीं लग रहा क्योंकि मुझे लग रहा है पता नहीं ये सही भी है या नहीं।
ओके, अच्छा नहीं लग रहा वर्सेस पता नहीं है सही भी है या नहीं, ये दो अलग अलग चीजें। एवरीबडी, दिस इज अनदर इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग व्हेन यू सेट आउट टू गो वर्क एज अ प्रोफेशनल। जब आप बाहर निकलोगे, काम करने जाओगे, ये जो सो कॉल्ड लैक ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस है ना, या लैक ऑफ क्लैरिटी है कि यार ये पता नहीं ये ठीक है कि नहीं, इट्स ऑल राइट। दैट्स हाउ ऑल कंटेंट पीपल वर्क, इवन द सीजन्ड वंस। हम लोग जो सो कॉल्ड 15-15 साल से कंटेंट लिख रहे हैं, हम भी आज भी यही करते हैं। I still give multiple headlines sometimes and ask my client to choose. कभी कभी मैं आज भी ये करती हूँ कि मैं उनको एक से ज्यादा हेडलाइंस दूंगी, बोलूंगी मुझे ये भी अच्छी लग रही है, मुझे ये भी अच्छी लग रही है, आपको कौन सी पसंद है। कभी कभी मैं नहीं दूंगी, कभी कभी वो मुझे बोलेंगे कोई और हेडलाइन दो, मैं शायद अड़ भी जाऊंगी, लेकिन वो मैं आज करूंगी। सो पूजा, क्या ये सही है? पता नहीं अभी। एक चीज है जिसको हम बोलते हैं एबी टेस्टिंग। हम एक से ज्यादा चीजें लिखते हैं, हम उनको टेस्ट करते हैं, वी मेक समबडी रीड देम या वी सेंड इट आउट इन पब्लिक एंड वी से कि इस पे रिस्पॉन्स कैसा आ रहा है। उस एबी टेस्टिंग में बस एक ही चीज का ध्यान रखना होता है कि भाई इतना खराब मत लिख देना कि जनता आपका धंधा छोड़ के चले जाए। बट अदरवाइज इट्स एब्सोल्युटली ऑल राइट टू नॉट नो। एक बात। दूसरी बात, आपको जो करना होगा ना पूजा, एज अ प्रोसेस, नॉट राइट नाउ लेकिन इन जनरल, वो ये होगा कि अब आपको इसमें सोचना पड़ेगा कि मैं और क्या कर सकती हूँ। तो मैंने बोला मेरी क्वालिटी वैक्स की अच्छी है और आप ये किसी भी ओकेजन पे यूज कर सकते हो, ग्रेट। वैक्स की क्वालिटी अच्छी होने से प्राइस पे क्या असर पड़ेगा? वो बढ़ जाएगी या कम होगी? दैट्स द क्वेश्चन यू नीड टू आस्क योरसेल्फ। और अगर मेरी प्राइस बढ़ जाएगी तो मेरा क्लाइंट कौन होगा? क्या मेरा क्लाइंट काम वाली दीदी होंगी? कैंडल्स तो वो भी खरीदती हैं। या मेरा क्लाइंट कोई आईटी फर्म वाले डबल इनकम फैमिलीज होंगे? तो मेरी मैसेजिंग उस हिसाब से ट्वीक हो जाएगी। मुझे ये समझ में आ रहा है कि मेरा क्वालिटी एक चीज है, उसके साथ प्राइस दूसरी चीज है, और उसके कारण मेरा ऑडियंस तीसरी चीज है, और मेरा मैसेज उस ऑडियंस के हिसाब से लिखा जाएगा। ये कॉन्सेप्चुअली आपको ये समझ में आया?
जी।
अब आप ये जाके अटेम्प्ट कर पाओगे?
यस मैम।
आपको मैं स्पेसिफिकली इसलिए पॉइंट आउट करके पूछ रही हूँ क्योंकि आई नो दैट यू हैव नॉट डन दिस बिफोर। आपने ये बोला कि मैंने ये नहीं किया, एंड आई वांट यू टू बी एबल टू डू दिस बाय द टाइम टुमारो वर्कशॉप एंड्स। आई वांट यू टू स्टार्ट फीलिंग कि यार मैं शुरू तो कर सकती हूँ। आई एम नॉट सिंगलिंग यू आउट, ठीक है ना? ये समझ में आ रहा है ना गाइज? एवरीबडी प्लीज अंडरस्टैंड समथिंग, द वे आई टीच और द वे आई ट्रेन और मेंटोर और व्हाटएवर कैन समटाइम्स कम अक्रॉस यार मेरा नाम लेके क्यों पूछ लिया, बट उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव ये नहीं है कि मुझे शिकायतें हैं आपसे। उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव ये है कि आप जो एक्चुअली अकम्प्लिश करने आए हो इस वर्कशॉप में वो कर लो। So I want you to write this outline again after we end the session. Everybody, I want you to write your outlines. But now I want to come to the other question. मेरी brief में क्या problem थी? मेरी brief में एक problem थी। वो problem क्या थी? Thank you, Pooja. Thanks for participating. Who will tell me? Minnie, what do you think was the problem in my brief?
No, I think it was pretty clear.
Okay.
I didn't, and I think I asked you when I got distracted, so I asked.
But interestingly, it was your question that made me realize that my brief was not clear. Guys, my brief was
No.
200 वर्ड में मुझे नहीं 200 वर्ड में मुझे आउटलाइन दो, मैंने ये ब्रीफ दी थी। 200 वर्ड में आउटलाइन कैसे होती है? आउटलाइन लो, डिटेल्ड आउटलाइन लो।
Acha, I just got it like I applied the WH framework to what I wanted to say.
Okay.
और मैंने WH framework के हिसाब से मतलब I just picked, you said outline, so I just picked one of the framework. I felt I was very comfortable with WH, so मैंने उसके हिसाब से अपना पूरा वो बना दिया कि what, why, how, कैसे, and that's it.
But did you
That was my
apply
outline.
did you merge the two frameworks together after that?
No, I did not merge the two frameworks together. I just used one framework और मैंने 200 words तो नहीं किया, मैंने बहुत ही brief करा उसको.
That's all right. Do you
But
want to explain?
yeah, I can share. So according to the WH framework, what we are going to offer is psychological counseling. And why? Because for mental health and wellness, how book a session? First one is always free, where you can have it online or you can have in your own city. Our network of counselors can help in your own city. So we are available on these timings. So then I can expand this and be more to the point. That is how.
Okay, now if I had to ask you, what are you offering? You're offering mental health counseling. Now,
Yeah.
let us ask you, what is the emotional impact of your services on people's lives?
The emotional impact of our service on people's life is very immense, because in case if people are able to take our services, they're able to have counseling, they're able to sort out their life, their emotions will be much in check, and they will have their entire life will change, their relationships, interpersonal relationships will change, their performance at work will change, their own personal development will become better, they will be more self-aware. So overall, the holistic development can happen.
What will be the economic impact of this on people's lives? They have to spend
If
money
they are
on you, right?
Yeah, because if they just spend money on getting their counseling sessions done, when they go back to their work, their productivity will be much higher, because then when their mind is sorted, they don't have to constantly worry or stress about things which are going to pull them apart in all directions. When they go to work, they work. Their mind functions better. They're not worried about home front, or when they are at home, because
What
they
is the
have better
political
relationships.
narrative of mental health counseling or services? Is there a political narrative?
Yeah, we can create one, and I think I can see it this way. A political narrative of same thing could be, obviously, when the mental health, India for one is known as a nation with a very large number of youth suicides and a lot of depression cases. So this is something, and India is a very young nation, so mental health concerns really stop us from achieving our best as a nation as well. So in case if our mental health is better, if the stress levels are down, if we are a happy country, we'll definitely be developing faster. So I think that could be a political narrative.
So guys, now here is where I will step in for a minute. Thanks, Minnie. Thanks for sharing and thanks for participating. My additional input here is now for a minute, stop thinking like just a content writer, start thinking like a researcher.
Okay.
So I asked many questions. क्योंकि सिर्फ राइटिंग करनी है तो राइटिंग तो हो गई. हम मेंटल हेल्थ सर्विस प्रोवाइड करते हैं, इतने बजे से इतने बजे तक हमारे सेशंस होते हैं, हमारे सेशंस का प्राइस पॉइंट ये है, आप हमारे साथ इन शहरों में सेशंस बुक कर सकते हैं, आइए हमसे सेशंस लीजिए. दैट्स अ बेसिक. क्यों लीजिए? क्योंकि इससे आपका जीवन सुधरेगा, इससे आपकी प्रोडक्टिविटी बढ़ेगी, इससे आपका इमोशनल बैलेंस, मेंटल फ्रेमवर्क सही रहेगा, इससे आप पीसफुल रहेंगे. गुड, ब्रिलियंट. Now here is where you deep dive and you say, अच्छा इसका economic impact क्या होगा? And she said, अच्छा इसका economic impact person की life पे she explained. I will actually go and ask my client कि आप एक काम करिए, आप या I may do it for my client while I'm researching and I will say, अगर मैं ये मान लूं कि एक आदमी को minimum salary मिलती है, तो mental health awareness अभी इस वक्त कौन से सोशो इकोनॉमिक सेगमेंट्स में ज्यादा होगी? अर्बन सेगमेंट्स में कंपैरेटिवली. रूरल सेगमेंट्स में तो वो अनएड्रेस्ड ही है, मतलब वो जज्ड है, वो टबूड है, वो झाड़फूक बाबा ओझा चल रहा है वहां तो. बट अगर मैं बोलूं कि अर्बन और सेमी अर्बन में अवेयरनेस है, तो मेरे एक क्लाइंट का, मेरे एक जो कंसल्टिंग लेने आएंगे, जो कंज्यूमर है, जो कस्टमर है, एंड कस्टमर का, अगर उसका सैलरी वो है जो सरकारी बेसिक बेंचमार्क है, मिनिमम बेंचमार्क 15,000 रुपए महीना, और अगर मेरे को ये डेटा कहीं मिल जाए किसी गवर्नमेंट वेबसाइट से या किसी मेंटल हेल्थ इंस्टीट्यूट की वेबसाइट से कि ऑन एन एवरेज कितने पेशेंट्स, नए पेशेंट्स साल में आते हैं, तो आई कैन एक्चुअली पुट अ कैलकुलेशन एंड से कि साल में इस इंस्टीट्यूट के रिसर्च के बेसिस पे ये कैलकुलेशन बनती है, हमें इतने 1,000 करोड़ का नुकसान होता है रेवेन्यू में अगर ये लोग फंक्शनली काम नहीं कर पाते और हर महीने 15,000 का सैलरी नहीं ड्रॉ कर पाते. Then I have a case Minnie, you understand what I'm asking? I'm asking you to
Yeah.
deep dive and make those. Now, this is when you stop thinking like a content writer, and this is where you start thinking strategically as a business person.
Yeah,
तुम्हारा
I know
धंधा
because
नहीं.
already I'm making notes. Yeah.
So, if say I was to say कि आपका एक client है जिसकी सीमेंट की फैक्ट्री है, तो इसका मतलब कहीं सीमेंट का they'll have a mine somewhere, they'll have a plant somewhere, they'll also have logistics. Think, ask questions. So the first skill is not language. The first skill is thought. Are you asking questions? Are you asking a lot of questions? Are you asking relevant questions? You remember the first bonus I gave you, how to ideate. We talked a lot about questioning technique there. और कैसे questions? हाँ या ना के questions नहीं. हाँ या ना के questions में कुछ नहीं होता explore करने के लिए. Devbrata, do you want to write content? Yes, ma'am, I want to write content. Okay, great, wonderful. Now what? But if I ask you, Anand, why do you want to write content? Then we have an answer. If I ask you, Pooja, why do you want to write content? Piyush, why do you want to write it? Then we have answers, then we have problem statements, then we have something to solve, and then I have something that I can give you as content in this class, and I can say, here is how you solve it. But if you don't have a problem statement, if you're not thinking from a business perspective and a strategic perspective, then your content writing is also going to be very average. वो 10 पैसे per word वाली content writing हो जाएगी. Nothing wrong with it. But उसकी तो भरमार है ना, वो content. One of the other things about content is there's good content and there's average content and there's fluff. हम बहुत एक एग्जांपल लेती हूँ, हम बहुत सुंदर केक्स बेक करते हैं, हम बहुत सुंदर कैंडल्स बनाते हैं, हम बहुत अच्छे अच्छे फ्लावर्स बेचते हैं, हम बहुत एक्सोटिक फ्लावर्स बेचते हैं. अच्छा, बहुत अच्छी बात है, क्या कहूँ फिर? Remember what I asked you? आप बहुत अच्छा करते होंगे. How is that of value to me? Let us look at some other business idea. Does somebody have something else? So we've done flowers, we've done candles, we've done mental health. Does someone have another business that they want to talk about? Achal, Arya, Piyush, Vajni. How can an average person compete with AI tools? Okay, we'll talk about the AI tools. Piyush will come and I'll teach you some components of prompt engineering towards the end of the workshop tomorrow, but not right now. We will come to that. Okay, no, all right. Anand, Vinod, Mayuri, any other business idea? Yes, Adikshita.
Ma'am, so it is not actually a business idea I want to work on, but just because I thought I can write on it.
That's all right.
So, ma'am, I have here Babulo bottles.
Okay.
BB Group has plastic-free bottles that are light and keeps the water cool and warm for each temperature. Home delivery is available free of cost any day of the week
Okay.
on babulo.com.
Hmm.
It is cheaper than most steel bottles in the market. It is fully made in India. Save the environment by not using plastic bottles. ठंडा गरम पानी पियो. अगली बार खरीदो bottles from Babulo.
Ma'am, you've unmuted yourself.
Oh,
Muted
sorry
it.
guys. हाँ, so Adikshita, question for you. Plastic की नहीं बनी हुई है, किसकी बनी हुई है ये bottles?
मैम स्टील.
स्टील की बनी हुई है. प्राइस पॉइंट क्या है?
350 rupees per bottle.
Okay. और सिंगल पीस बेचते हो या मल्टीपल?
सिंगल.
सिंगल पीस बेचते हो और सिंगल पीस 350 का पड़ता है. इस पे ऊपर से कोरियर चार्जेस लगेंगे कि नहीं लगेंगे?
Included.
Included है. So you see there are gaps. There is more information that we can provide.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Next question. तुमने बोला कि स्टील का बॉटल है, ये बेहतर है and in comparison to plastic. मैं बोल रही हूँ ये heavy है तो तुमने वो address कर दिया, तुमने बोला ये light bottles हैं. My question is अगर ये light है और ये steel की है तो क्या ये durable है?
So we need to add how many years it will last or like that.
Something on those lines. So you understand that you need to ask more questions in the what.
Yes, ma'am.
And once you have more of that, you will also have some more whys maybe.
Yes, ma'am.
कौन से शहर में डिलीवर करोगे, कौन कौन से शहरों में डिलीवर करोगे, सब जगह डिलीवर करोगे, हिंदुस्तान में डिलीवर करोगे, हिंदुस्तान के बाहर डिलीवर करोगे.
Yes, ma'am.
So those are the questions that we will ask and we'll keep filling the information gaps.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Another thing that you guys will need to do when you start out in the market is, so जैसे मैंने दी vague सी brief दे दी कुछ, go to your client, ask for clarifications. It's okay. Tell him मेरे को brief और चाहिए, detail चाहिए, मेरे ये 5 सवाल हैं, please ये address करिए. Involve your client in the process. When I say client, I'm assuming that if you guys step out to work as freelancers, of course, it could be your manager, it could be your department head, depending on who you're writing with, but involve them in that process, because unless you get the vision clear, your content will not have the kind of impact it needs to have. Now, the other thing that you need to keep in mind is how to keep it crisp. उसको crisp कैसे रखें? तो उसको crisp रखने का तरीका होता है, okay, I said mine was on similar grounds. Give me 1 second. Related to mental health, more or less just the same, just an extra point. How has the idea of seeking therapy changed over time in our society, and including group and good job, Avya, group and individual therapy, many points for you. Also, how has the
Thank you.
societal conditioning changed? Maybe you guys can actually network after the workshop and work together on the idea. Okay, just throwing more ideas. I am happy if you guys do that. Now come back to where we were. कि मैसेजिंग क्रिस्प कैसे हो. सो एक मिनट, क्विक रिकैप. हमने अभी तक क्या क्या बात की है? अभी तक हमने we've discussed mostly philosophical aspects of content writing. क्यों लिखना है, किसके लिए लिखना है, पर्पस क्या है, कैसे आइडिएट करना है, आउटलाइन बनानी है, यहां तक हम पहुंच गए. अब आउटलाइन बन गई, आउटलाइन का एक लॉजिकल फ्लो होना है, ये भी हमें समझ में आ गया. वंस दैट इज देयर, देन कम्स द कंपोनेंट ऑफ लैंग्वेज. इट्स अ रिलेटिवली, जो स्ट्रेटेजिक हार्डवर्क है ना, वो हो गया है. अभी लैंग्वेज इज द सेकेंड हेवी लिफ्टिंग पीस. दिस इज वेयर यू विल राइट, दिस इज वेयर यू विल पुट वर्ड्स, दिस इज वेयर यू विल understand nuances. This is where the tone and the pitch and the pace will come into picture. There are businesses that come across as aggressive. There are businesses that come across as very supportive and mellow. There are businesses which come across as very balanced and seasoned. एंड डिपेंडिंग ऑन आप किसके लिए लिख रहे हो, आप बिजनेस के लिए लिख रहे हो, आप बिजनेस लीडर के लिए लिख रहे हो, आप गोस्ट राइटिंग कर रहे हो, आप मार्केटिंग के लिए आर्टिकल लिख रहे हो, या आप सिर्फ ब्लॉग लिख रहे हो, या आप रिसर्च रिपोर्ट लिख रहे हो, आपकी टोन चेंज होगी, आपका पिच पेस चेंज होगा. तो अब वो कैसे पता चलेगा कि क्या होना चाहिए? द वे टू डू दैट इज टू रीड. तो बिना पढ़े लिखा नहीं जा सकता. और पढ़ने का मतलब ये नहीं है कि आपने पढ़ा और आपने ऐसा कैसा उठा के कॉपी कर लिया वो फॉर्मेट या वो लैंग्वेज या वो टोन जो आपको अच्छी लगी. पढ़ने का मतलब ये है कि एक से ज्यादा तरह की चीजें पढ़िए. एक से ज्यादा तरह की चीजें पढ़ेंगे तो यू विल हैव डाइवर्सिटी इन हाउ यू अप्रोच ए सब्जेक्ट. So one of the things that I like to tell my language students, and I'm going to share it here with you as well, is fiction पढ़ो क्योंकि fiction से style और flair आता है. नॉन फिक्शन पढ़ो क्योंकि नॉन फिक्शन लॉजिक थॉट प्रोसेस को एक्सपोजर देता है. नॉन फिक्शन विल गिव यू द डेप्थ. Fiction will give you how to present it. It will be the presentation. Non-fiction will be the substance. Fiction will be the presentation. Non-fiction will be the base of the pizza. Fiction is मुझे इस पिज्जा पे चीज चाहिए, या मुझे चीज कम चाहिए या ज्यादा चाहिए, या 3 तरह का चीज चाहिए या 2 तरह का चीज. That's the fundamental difference. And the more you read and the more you write, the better you will get at it. So the only way, like I'm repeating myself, is to start and keep doing. Now, I'll also talk a little bit today about how to start in the market. So the first time, how many of you are people जिन्होंने आज तक कभी content writing professionally की नहीं है, कभी भी नहीं की है, किसी भी context में नहीं की है? I know पूजा ने बोला मैंने नहीं की है, और ओके फिर मैंने नहीं किया है, और आंचल, have you done it in the past? Rajni, Vinod ji?
I have not, I mean, I didn't do it professionally as in, but I've written some adoption posts and some things about veganism and plant-based lifestyles. But I don't know if that that can be called professional, since I didn't get any money from it. But yeah, I have written.
So I will talk of professional as something that you've made money from. That's what we're focusing on right now.
No, never.
Okay. All right. Kanchan? Okay. So प्रोफेशनल राइटिंग का मतलब क्या है? प्रोफेशनल राइटिंग के ना 2-3 ऑब्जेक्टिव्स होते हैं. या तो आपको सीधा पैसा मिल रहा है लिखने का, दैट्स वन वे ऑफ राइटिंग. The other way of writing is you write it as a part of your ongoing job. आपकी नौकरी कुछ और है, आपका काम कुछ और है, और आप उसके कॉन्टेक्स्ट में लिखते हैं. जैसे टेक्निकल लोग अक्सर पेपर्स लिखा करते हैं. वो पेपर्स वो इसलिए लिखते हैं क्योंकि या टेक्निकल आर्टिकल्स पब्लिश करवाते हैं. The reason behind that is because their role is as an engineer, as a product lead, as a manager, whatever. Their role expects them to come up with insights. Their role expects them to have a branding piece. Again, information, persuasion, remember, education. So when you start, the first thing you need is a portfolio. मैं आपको क्यों हायर करूं? And I'm saying this, I know this will probably again sound controversial and offensive. Anybody who can string 3 sentences together today, the world is such, thinks that they have a content writer. तो मैं आपको क्यों हायर करूं? आप प्राउड से स्टैंड आउट कैसे करोगे? मुझे कैसे पता चलेगा कि आप हायरेबल हो? या तो मैं आपको बुलाऊंगी, आपसे फ्री असाइनमेंट लिखवाऊंगी, वो मैं हो सकता है फिर भी लिखवाऊं. लेकिन व्हाट्स द फर्स्ट स्टेप? आप इंटरव्यू देने जाते हैं, व्हाट इज द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट यू कैरी विद यू? योर CV? The first thing that you carry with you in an interview is a CV or a resume, right? For writers, the second thing that you carry with yourself is your portfolio. Now, who can tell me what is a portfolio? People wake up, good morning, 11:30 हुआ है, 12:30 पे 12:30 पे हम क्लास खत्म कर देंगे, लेकिन we need to focus and wake up.
May I say?
Yes,
Kanchan
please.
here.
Yes.
Yeah. So portfolio is like basically a collection of your previous work, whatever you've done so far. But then how does a newcomer go about it?
How does a newcomer go about it? So if you have done some work, even if you've done freelance non-paid work, Achal, जो आपने किया है, you can have those links. That's one way to go about it. The second way to go about it is...
I have a small question here. When there is a lot of ghost writing, when we do unpaid work, obviously we don't get any credit also for it. So how can I claim that as my own? It is after all intellectual property.
As a piece of ghost writing. वो आपके डिपेंड करेगा. अगर आपने एक एग्जांपल देती हूँ, तो I ghost write for a lot of CEOs. अब क्योंकि वो एक CEO हैं, वो एक वेल एस्टैब्लिश्ड, और वो गोस्ट राइट क्यों करवाते हैं ये भी बता देती हूँ. वो गोस्ट राइट इसलिए नहीं करवाते हैं कि वो आलसी हैं, उनसे अपना काम नहीं होता है. वो गोस्ट राइट इसलिए करवाते हैं क्योंकि उनको इंडस्ट्री एक्सपोजर है. Their 40 years of experience is something I can't compete with. मैंने नहीं कोई बिजनेस 4000 करोड़ का रन किया है, मुझे नहीं पता 4000 करोड़ का बिजनेस कैसे रन करते हैं. I couldn't write that book on my own. ऑन द कॉन्ट्ररी, उन्होंने वो किया है, उनको वो आता है, उनके पास लर्निंग्स है, इनसाइट्स हैं, लेकिन एक उनके पास लिखने का स्किल नहीं है, दूसरा उनके पास टाइम नहीं है. तो दे विल यूजुअली हायर अ गोस्ट राइटर. ऑल पीपल डू. नाउ माय कॉन्ट्रैक्ट विद देम इज डिजाइन्ड इन अ मैनर वेयर आई कांट रिवील कि ये किताब मैंने लिखी है, बट आई ऑपरेट इन अ सर्कल जहां वर्ड ऑफ माउथ चलेगा. लेकिन मैं क्या करती हूँ, तो मैं पूरा किताब नहीं बोलती हूँ कि मैंने किताब लिखा है. आई जस्ट पिक अ पैराग्राफ और 2. That's one way of going about it. The second way of going about it You can create your own portfolio from scratch. So say आपने ये आइडेंटिफाई किया अपने आप के लिए कि यार मुझे ना नॉन फिक्शन लिखना है, मुझे ब्लॉग्स लिखने हैं, ब्लॉग्स लिख के पैसा कमाना है. तो you pick a niche and you write 6 articles on that. You pick a second niche, you write another 2 articles on that. You pick a third niche and then when so for instance, जब मैं अब जाती हूँ कहीं पे डील के लिए या इंटरव्यू के लिए, they say samples भेज दीजिए, तो मैं क्या भेजती हूँ? I even send my Facebook posts sometimes because they are very long posts and they're very well structured, and I say, okay, here is what I write in long form. Here is what I write in short form. So वो जो लंबी पोस्ट है, उसी लंबी पोस्ट का एक कॉपी एडिटेड छोटा वर्जन है जो कि मेरे इंस्टा पे जाएगा या मेरे ट्विटर पे जाएगा, और मैं बोलूंगी ये मेरा ट्विटर हैंडल है, ये मेरा फेसबुक अकाउंट है, ये मेरा इंस्टा हैंडल है. So it also depends on the kind of work that you're looking for, Kanchan. Does that answer your question? So where do you begin? You begin from scratch and it's absolutely okay. And then there will always be some friendly clients जिनको आप बोलोगे कि देखिए openly मैं कभी इसको claim नहीं करूंगी, लेकिन अगर कोई interview हो तो can I tell them that this is something I ghost wrote? Business writing अगर किया, अगर किसी business के लिए लिखा है, so unlike writing for a CEO, writing for businesses will be different. अगर आपने से प्लास्टिक एडिटिव मैन्युफैक्चरर के लिए लिख रहे थे या सीमेंट मैन्युफैक्चरर के लिए ही आप लिख रहे थे, तो यू कैन ऑलवेज से ये ब्लॉग्स मैंने लिखे हैं, एंड इन द इंटरव्यू यू कैन वेरी कैटेगोरिकली से दैट आई वर्क एज अ घोस्ट राइटर, एंड इट्स एब्सोल्युटली फाइन. नॉट ऑल ऑफ अस गेट बायलाइंस यार, हम में से कितनों को बायलाइंस मिलती. You get that? Does that answer your question?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
My suggestion for everybody who doesn't currently have a portfolio but wants to start in the industry is please create your portfolio. Take time with it. Portfolio may, depending again on what kind of work you want, you may want to create different styles. You may want to have some chota report ka ek section. You may want to have one blog. My next suggestion also is don't mix business writing with creative writing. You may have a sample saying creative writing pieces या fiction. बट आमतौर पे फिक्शन लिखने की नौकरी नहीं मिलती है, नॉन फिक्शन लिखने का काम मिल जाता है. बिजनेस राइटिंग यू विल फाइंड एज वर्क, एज पेड वर्क. फिक्शन राइटिंग टू फाइंड एज पेड वर्क इज अ लिटिल, वो टेढ़े मेढ़े घुमावदार रास्ते हैं. वी डोंट वांट टू गो देयर. मतलब फ्रॉम अ वेरी वेरी कट थ्रोट पैसे कमाने में पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इज व्हाट आई एम सेइंग. And that is the first thing you need to have. The second thing that you need to do is you need to network. जंगल में मोर नाचा, किसी ने देखा? किसने देखा? मुझे नहीं पता. So you also have to put yourself out there, and that is the difficult part. Portfolio तो लिख लोगे, रोगे धोगे, थोड़ा बहुत तमाशा मचाओगे, बोलोगे हमसे नहीं लिखा जाता है, but छक मार के eventually you will manage to write it. What you will struggle is putting that work out, because you will always have that fear of being judged. Will I be judged? इसकी इंग्लिश अच्छी नहीं है, इसने ये 4 मिस्टेक्स किए हैं, फिर कोई आके कुछ कह देगा. कह देने दो. That's all right. I know it sounds easier. It's not as easy, but that's all right. That's how we learn. You will write something, someone will say something, and then you will say, okay, the next time I will not write like this, I will write differently, and it's perfectly all right. It's called feedback loop. वो तो आपका paid client भी आपके साथ करेगा, वो तो paid clients are going to do it with an entitlement because they've paid you money and it's their right to keep asking you for iterations. But start putting your work out, start networking. How can you network? You don't have to necessarily put it on LinkedIn to begin with. You have a group, we have a group. You put your work there. Half of you did not respond to the question, and I only asked you to introduce yourselves. Imagine the amount of fear we have about feedback. And this is a workshop that किसी ने गर्दन पकड़ के नहीं आपको ज्वाइन करवाई थी. You volunteered, you said I want to learn this, but we are so close to feedback, and the primary reason behind that, like I've said it 2-3 times, is fear. What fear? The fear of judgment, the fear of failure. But that is why you need a community, that is why you need a support system, that is why you need someone who will say to you कि यार ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं ना, दोबारा लिख ले. यार अच्छा, तुम लोग ना सब लोग एक कॉमन सेट ऑफ मिस्टेक्स करते हो, वो ये कॉमन सेट ऑफ मिस्टेक्स हैं. सो स्टार्ट के बाद, आइडिएट के बाद, राइट के बाद, पुट इट आउट देयर इज द नेक्स्ट स्टेप. I want to date someone, but I'm not going to make a dating app पे profile. I'm not going to go to a party. I'm not going to meet my friends who will introduce me to people. But I want to date someone. Is that possible? संभव है क्या? I have to go out. So do you. So do all of us. For work, that is how we start. Then comes where to find gigs. Where to find gigs is there are multiple places, platforms. Tomorrow we'll talk about them, some of them. Fiverr, Upwork, LinkedIn, वो सब तो है. लेकिन उसके अलावा, and how do you approach someone? What do you ask? What do you say? What do you show? That piece we'll do tomorrow. What we'll also do tomorrow is the different kinds of content. हमने जो आज theoretical foundational framework build किया है, उस framework के basis पे I'm going to give you certain exercises today. Once we end the session, I'll go to the group, I'll post a few exercises, and you will attempt those exercises between today and tomorrow, hopefully. So that tomorrow when you come back to the session, you will have questions to ask. I will have feedback to share. But the things that are pending on our end is, अब हमने ये सीख लिया हमको क्यों लिखना है, हमको कैसे लिखना है, हम क्या क्या लिख सकते हैं जो हमें पैसे दिलवा दे. तो एक तो काइंड्स ऑफ कंटेंट, वो एक बहुत छोटू सा पीस है, लेकिन हमें पैसे लेने जाना कहाँ है, हमें डील कैसे नेगोशिएट करनी है, हमें पोर्टफोलियो कहाँ से शुरू करना है, that I've told you. Once you start showing me your portfolios, I can give you more specific and one-on-one feedbacks. I'm happy to do that in the group. I don't mind that. One-on-one inbox may, as in you sending me a personal message, can become a little tricky. Because when I share it in the group, everybody learns. When I share it with just you, then only you learn, and then I have to teach the same thing to someone else again. So please don't expect that, but put it out in the group. I will give you feedback. That will always happen. Tomorrow we will also talk about ChatGPT. Somebody asked, how can we compete? Your job is not to compete, your job is to collaborate. How many of you have used ChatGPT so far? आप में से किन-किन लोगों ने use कर लिया है अभी तक? Okay. Who else? All right. Achal, what was your experience like?
It saved a lot of time, to be honest. I had my own idea, so it was not like just some random
list.
Yeah, I had my own thoughts, and it really helped categorize it, and so mine was a good experience, I would say.
So the first thing that you need to understand about ChatGPT or any of these AI tools is they are there for you to not feel threatened by. आपके डरने से कुछ होने नहीं वाला है. They are here to stay. आप डर लो, या तो डर लो या तो befriend कर लो. I'll show you my ChatGPT screen and then we will take it from there. Give me 1 second. Do you see this? Everybody, can you see the screen? Okay, perfect. This is my paid ChatGPT subscription. The first thing that I remember for myself is मैं ChatGPT को research के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा use नहीं करती. उसका कारण है, उसका डेटा आउटडेटेड है. एक चीज, अगर वो लाइव भी ट्रैक कर रहा है तो वो एक सर्टेन, उसकी एक लिमिटेशन है जिस तरह का डेटा वो ट्रैक कर सकता है. मैं मेरी रिसर्च खुद हैंड्स ऑन करना प्रेफर करती हूँ. हाँ, मैं ये कर सकती हूँ कभी कभी कि मैं उस रिसर्च को ऑर्गेनाइज चैट से करवा लेती हूँ. बट ChatGPT यूज करते टाइम द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट यू हैव टू रिमेम्बर, ये कुछ 4 चीजें इसमें लिखी हुई है. मेक अ कंटेंट स्ट्रेटजी, गिव मी आइडियाज, कम अप विद कॉन्सेप्ट, शो मी अ कोड स्निपेट. I will set a personality. I will say you are a very seasoned and experienced copywriter. I want you to write a 200-word article. So I first set the Okay, wait. We'll make it more specific. Copywriter in a lifestyle, no, who works for a mental health business. I want you to write a 200-word article, which is crisp, informative, and still and in depth. मुझे मालूम है अब ये थोड़ा ज्यादा हो गया ना, 200 वर्ड भी लिखने हैं, डेप्थ भी चाहिए, क्रिस्प भी होना चाहिए, but that's how chat works. And you say an in-depth article. Sorry. The topic is how to take care of yourself when you feel very anxious. ये टॉपिक मैं इसको कोट्स एंड कोट्स में दे रही हूँ. अब फिर मैं आगे इस पे और restraints लगाने वाली हूँ. Ensure that you do not provide overly generic information. Make sure that the language is simple to understand. Include bullet points, heads, and subheads in the output. You could also say in the article, in the written piece, that's okay. Chat understands, but AI understands those things. Do not use jargon, medically specific information, because I'm not a doctor, so I want to keep that in mind. Sorry guys, my spell checker is or medicine names and recommendations. Also give me 5 options of non-repetitive heads and subheads which are not longer than 3 to 5 words each. So what have I done? I've set a personality to ChatGPT. पहले तो तुम हो कौन, तुमको क्या करना है और तुम्हें क्या नहीं करना है. द नहीं करना बिट इज मोर इम्पोर्टेंट, बिकॉज नहीं करना है अगर नहीं बताया तो वो सब कर देगा जो उसको समझ में आवे ना नेट देख के, और फिर आपको जो मिलेगा वो फ्लफ मिलेगा. So it's given you these heads and subheads, and then it's giving you the writing. Let's see. The ChatGPT 4 version is slightly slower because ये apparently live search करने लगा है आजकल, ऐसा मैंने कहीं पढ़ा. And I'll show you what I do next. एक बार जब ये पूरा generate कर देता है response, उसके बाद वो response आपका final response नहीं है. That's not the output. ऐसा का ऐसा ले जाके चिपका नहीं देना है. उसके बाद उसके साथ ड्यू डिलिजेंस करनी है. उसके ड्यू डिलिजेंस से भी पहले उसको रीराइट करना है, उसके साथ ड्यू डिलिजेंस करनी है, फिर उसको कॉपीस्केप में डालना है प्लेजियरिज्म चेक करने के लिए, उसके बाद उसको ग्रामरली में डालना है ग्रामर फिक्स करने के लिए. और जब ये सारा काम हो जाएगा तो जाके ये आर्टिकल क्लोज होगा. और ये ध्यान रखना है कि ग्रामरली जब आपकी ग्रामर करेक्ट करता है, आई एम नॉट क्रिटिसाइजिंग इट एज अ टूल, इट्स अ ब्रिलियंट टूल, बट व्हेन ग्रामर एडिटर्स, online editors, the text editors, edit your work, a lot of times they do what is called as line editing. कि एक लाइन है, उस लाइन में जो ग्रामर ऑफ लगी तो फिक्स कर दी, नहीं लगी तो नहीं फिक्स की, लेकिन वो कॉन्टेक्स्ट में फिट हो रही है कि नहीं हो रही है. इट्स योर जॉब टू आइडेंटिफाई कि यार ये एडिटिंग ठीक भी है कि ये एडिटिंग बस ऐसे ही हवाबाजी ही चल रही है यहाँ पे. ओके, लास्ट स्टेप पे है. नाउ आई शो यू व्हाट नेक्स्ट. सो ये हो गया जेनरेट रिस्पॉन्स मेरा. ये रिस्पॉन्स जेनरेट करने के बाद मैं वर्ड खोलूंगी. और इस वर्ड पे आई विल कॉपी. This is what the response. This is the response that ChatGPT had given me. तो ये तो हिंदी है. ये आउटलाइन थी, हमने आउटलाइन हटा दी. Did you see what I asked it to do? जब मैंने उसको बोला मुझे बुलेट पॉइंट्स दो, मुझे हेड्स और सब हेड्स दो, उसने एक्चुअली मुझे एक आउटलाइन दी. So I asked it for an outline. Now look at this language. Okay, in a world where uncertainty often reigns, feelings of anxiety can be all too familiar. Wow, kitni plari language. Sorry, I'm being sarcastic, but guys, this is not the language I would write as a professional writer. So I will say the world today is going through a lot of change. Not all this change is happiness inducing. As a result, most of us tend to feel anxious more than ever before. It is important to take care of ourselves. We have to care for ourselves in the middle of these anxious feelings to maintain mental equilibrium. Here is a set of tips you can use to do this. And then I remove what ChatGPT did. Do you see what I did, everybody? I used ChatGPT. I got an outline from it. I got some ideation from it, and then I put it in my words. And the next thing I will now do is, once I've done this whole piece, I will go to a plagiarism tool and check it for plagiarism. I will go to a grammar tool and check it for grammar. One of the other important things that I did was I changed the tense. मेरा पर्सनल ऑब्जर्वेशन एज अ कंटेंट पर्सन ये है कि अगर आप सिंपल प्रेजेंट में लिखेंगे तो बढ़िया रहेगा. समझने में आसान होता है, सेंटेंस स्ट्रक्चर सिंप्लीफाई हो जाता है, बहुत ज्यादा आईएनजी नहीं होता है, लंबे लंबे वर्ड्स नहीं होते जिनको बोलने में टंग ट्विस्ट हो, तो सारा सेंटेंस इट डजंट लुक बल्की, इट लुक्स नीट, इट लुक्स क्लीन. But that is my preference. There may also be people, industries, jobs, newspapers, for instance, where they may actually prefer longer sentences, they may prefer complex sentences. You will have to understand. So usually क्या होगा ना, वो सारी जगह है, वो सारे clients या वो सारे workspaces जहाँ पे content production on a regular basis होता है, content firms में, especially agencies में, एक style guide होगी. You will be given that guide or you can ask for it. लेकिन जो छोटे businesses होंगे, if you're working with startups or you're working with say businesses that are setting up their content verticals, it may not exist. You will have to create one, suggest one to the client, and they will take an approval call. तो एक important चीज जो लिखने का काम तो एक हिस्सा है, उसका style guide becomes another important thing, which brings me to editing, writing, rewriting. इनमें क्या फर्क है? तो जो मैंने अभी किया वो रीराइटिंग थी। मेरे पास एक एग्जिस्टिंग आउटपुट था, मैंने उसको रीराइट किया। एडिटिंग कैसा सीन है? एडिटिंग में कोई और लिख के आपको देगा एंड यू विल हैव टू फिक्स इट, एंड यू विल हैव टू नॉट जस्ट फिक्स द लैंग्वेज और द ग्रामर, यू विल नॉट जस्ट डू लाइन एडिटिंग which a Grammarly could do. आपकी क्या जरूरत है? You have to identify information gaps. क्या आप information gaps कैसे identify करोगे? जैसे मिनी ने और मैंने किया उस एग्जाम्पल में, या जैसे अदीक्षिता के साथ मैंने किया. You will have to ask questions. You will have to keep probing. You will have to keep digging deeper and say मेरे को और questions है, मेरे को ये भी जवाब दो, वो भी जवाब दो, ये piece of information missing है, वो piece of information missing. So this is broadly the process. Tomorrow you shall bring your assignments solved once I give you assignments. You're welcome to use online tools. I have nothing against them. I think tools make your life easy. You should use them. Piyush, does this answer your question about how can we not be threatened by chat, GPT, or other AI tools? So everybody, all the brands that I've mentioned of the tools, those are tools that I personally prefer to use. दिस इज नॉट मार्केटिंग गिमिक, मेरे को किसी ने एक पैसा नहीं दिया है कि हमारा नाम लो, लेकिन ये वो टूल्स हैं जो मैं यूज करती हूँ, जो मेरे को यूजफुल लगते हैं, जिनसे मेरे को लगता है कि हाँ मेरा काम एफिशिएंट बनता है और इफेक्टिव बनता है. यू कैन यूज दीज टूल्स और यू कैन यूज समथिंग एल्स, दैट्स ओके. That's for you guys to determine. You are welcome to experiment. In fact, the more you are in the business, the more you should experience and experiment different things, because then you will get more clarity, then you will be actually able to make informed choices बजाय इसके कि किसी ने कुछ कह दिया और आपने कर लिया. Now I'll take the last few questions if any of you has any questions. I would also like to see some smiling faces. यार शक्ल दिखा दो एक बार, मतलब मैं एक स्क्रीनशॉट कैप्चर कर लूंगी अपने सोशल मीडिया के लिए कि देखो लोग मुझसे प्यार जता के मेरी बात सुनने आए. It will be nice to see some faces, some more faces. अच्छा कोई बात नहीं. Achal, hi. Nice to see you. Adikshita, hello. Devvrat, Vinodji. Vinodji, you've been silent all through. All right, I'm stopping the recording now. If any of you has questions, let's keep it on the record. If you don't have questions, then I'll stop the recording. And then we can have some informal chit chat if you want, which is my typical method of sessions. After the session, I do a little bit of informal chit chat. Because I think it helps people build connections and it helps people seek out support when they need it. So if any of you has questions, please go on. If you don't have questions, we shall stop recording. All right, perfecto. I'll stop the recording then. And I will then